Hey everybody, it's Brian Burns. Welcome to this episode of the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast. Today, a topic that we all have to focus on. This is about being different. And why do we have to focus on it? Because we are kind of conditioned to become the same so that we look and act like other people. The problem is the same results as other people. And that today is very impressive. So we have to differentiate ourselves, our company, our product, and our process to really get the attention of our prospects in our marketplace. And today I've got an author, Lee Schultz, on, and he's going to share his book that he just wrote. It's just coming out, and he's giving some stuff away, so make sure you listen to the end. Why is this critical? Because we naturally fall into looking identical, looking like twins instead of the exception. If you ever heard of peacocking, it's a pickup artist type of thing, but you see celebrities do it all the time. They dress a little outrageous with a hat, a tie, a jacket. Why? You stand out a little bit. I'm not trying to encourage you to do that. I'm just giving you an example of it. But we have to do it in our prospecting. We have to do it in our sales calls. We have to do it in every interaction. And it's hard because all of a sudden people immediately say, well, how do I do that? We're going to get into this in the episode. But no matter how different your product is, everybody wants to commoditize us. I recently put a post out on YouTube about giving the proposal away to the person. Why is this bad? Great customer service, right? Because all of a sudden, some guy says, I completely disagree. All I want is the quote. Of course you do. You want to commoditize us. The problem is you're not the customer. You work for the customer. You work for the business that we are selling to, but you're not paying for this. The company is. And if we don't get an order, we worked for free and we don't get paid. Of course, your customer wants to commoditize you because that's easy for them. We all have this cognitive bias that we look for clarity. And anything outside it, we pay attention to either good and bad. So being different, you have to be very judicious about it. Be different in a better way, not in a negative way. Now, in this post, of course, everyone started to agree. You're the customer. You get whatever you want. But you're not the customer. The customer is the business, and the customer is not the end user. The customer is not even the CEO. The customer is the aggregate of all of them. And until they pay, until they buy, not a customer. They're a prospect, and it's our job to turn them into a customer. And sometimes we have to do a little quid pro quo, a little give to get, a little give and take. And if we don't do it, we're just in service, meaning that they're going to get 100% of the control, and we are most likely not going to get the order. So you can disagree with me on that, but believe me, I tried it both ways. And the more you dig in and you don't give everybody what they want immediately without getting something that you want, you're not going to get what you want. And this happens all the time. You judge for yourself. But let's get into this interview. But before we do, I'll make sure you're checking out Gong.io's blog. I'm having Chris back on the show. Chris is doing some great research off of their data and giving us great insight. So make sure you sign up for it there. You just put your email address in it. I signed up for it. They do not spam you. They've got a lot of great worksheets. I'm going to be having Chad back on the show. We're going to be talking about objections. We're going to be talking about differentiation, how to become a must-have instead of a nice-to-have. And too often we get beat down as reps, and we don't use our power as sellers. We kind of just go with the flow, do what we're told because that's how we're raised. That is our bias. And we don't kind of swim against the stream, but those are the people that really do well. Now, they got to do it right. That's what it's all about. At the end, I'll also update you on the course. It's got some big changes. Make sure you sign up this week to take advantage of the September pricing. And let's get into the interview with Lee. Here we go, Lee. Hey, Lee, thanks for joining us today as a way of getting started. Tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you, Brian. I'm a sales management strategist. I work with companies and help them build process strategy so that they can win more deals at the prices they want, which is also the theme of my new book, Sales Differentiation.
And how'd you get interested in this?
This has been a passion of mine since I was a teenager, where I'd be involved in businesses and try to understand what drove someone to buy from them versus the alternative. And, you'd hear business owners lament about, how to lower my price or very competitive marketplace. So I always found that intriguing. And then when I ran sales organizations from my early 20s into my 40s, it was always a focal area of mine, because I found that salespeople often weren't given the tools when they joined a company. And what I mean by tools is through onboarding. The company would say in the hiring process, boy, this person's going to do fantastic for us. And then the person would come in and they came to the table with a strong skill set, a strong background, lots of skills, but there was nothing in place that said, okay, so here's how to apply that knowledge and those skills in this particular role for our company. And one of the aspects that they struggled with was, how do I differentiate what I sell? How do I differentiate how I sell so that I can win the deals you want me to win and protect price points while doing so?
And you see that as the key characteristic?
Winning business, that's the core of why you have salespeople, right? Is bringing in business, but bringing it in at the price point that you want.
Yeah, I meant more as far as differentiating yourself.
I'm not following you. What do you mean?
Yeah, there's people who say bring insight, understand business acumen, be super helpful, understand the buying process. There's a lot of strategies, and a lot of it depends on what you're selling too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So part of the overall prescriptive approach to selling is that a company needs to have a defined strategy around, okay, so if my salespeople are going to have an initial sales call, and many B2B sales, you don't walk out with a piece of business. So what's the criteria for a great first meeting? And my perspective is that companies need to prescribe that and lay that out for their salespeople, rather than if you have 10 salespeople, each one doing it in whatever way they want. Great question I ask executives that have that type of environment where they haven't prescribed selling for the organization. I'd say, so if you had, instead of 10 salespeople, 10 manufacturing people, would you let them make your widget any which way they wanted? And of course they say no. Well, why wouldn't you do that? It's inefficient, it's costly, we can't measure it, and we can't improve performance. Well, then why aren't we doing that in sales? So that's one of the aspects that I'm very passionate about. You asked at the beginning what I do with companies. That's one of those aspects, is to help them build that framework I refer to as sales architecture. And a component of that is putting together a sales differentiation strategy.
And what are the elements of that?
Of sales differentiation is actually two halves of it. There's differentiation around what you sell, and there's differentiation around how you sell. So when we talk about what you sell, it means looking at every nook and cranny of the organization, of the products that you have to offer, and identifying what your differentiators are, and putting a strategy together to determine who's going to care about those particular differentiators, when are they going to care about them, putting together a communication strategy so that the person on the other side of the desk shares your passion. I find very often in companies that you've got salespeople, you have executives so passionate about their differentiators, but they're ineffective at helping prospects see that same vision so that they're just as passionate and want to buy from them instead of the alternative. The other side of it is when we talk about how you sell sales differentiation. And what I mean by that is providing meaningful value in a prescriptive way, so it's not accidental, it's not arbitrary, that your competitors don't provide, and this is in every buyer interaction, so that they're willing to buy from you at the prices that you want. And I've identified opportunities that salespeople have to differentiate themselves, to provide meaningful value in every one of those interactions. So from the very first time They're picking up the phone and prospecting through how they conduct that initial meeting, to their approach when objections, that scary word, comes up, to the request for references, the contract stage, ultimately when they're on board, and the way that customer service is delivered and account management is provided. All of those, and there's even more, provide opportunities for salespeople to do something different than their competitors, that someone's going to say, boy, I'd rather buy from this person versus the alternative. I'll give you
go ahead.
I'm going to give you an example of that. I had to buy insulation for my attic. Never had to buy it before, had no clue what to ask.
Yeah.
So I let my fingers do the walking. They used to say that about the yellow pages, but now I use that to describe Google. I let my fingers do the walking. I found 3 different companies that provided insulation, and 3 different salespeople came out. The first 2 looked around, said, here's how much it is, and that was the end of it. And the third one, before the salesperson came out, sent me an email. And they said, I'm guessing you've never bought insulation before. You don't even know what questions to ask, and you don't know what to look for. So here are some things that you want to be asking, some questions you want to be asking, and some points that should be important to you in making your decision. Guess what? Bought from them.
Yeah.
Because by doing that, it showed that he cared. It showed that he had expertise, and he helped me make an informed buying decision. And I have countless examples of those opportunities that salespeople have, and they don't always think about how they can differentiate themselves in the way in which they sell. And that's something that can be so powerful in leading someone to select them versus the alternative.
And that's it. I think today a lot of reps all model themselves after each other and kind of get stuck in what I call the rep zone. When you act like a salesperson, you get treated like one.
That's true.
You know, when you're pitching, when you're quoting, when you're handling objections, when you're pushing, people don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you wanted help with your installation. You didn't know what to do. You all thought it was the same.
And there's a question that I ask salespeople. I work across all different industries, and I have never had a salesperson say to me when I ask them this question, who knows more about the world of potential solutions in your industry? The people you sell to or you? I've never had a salesperson say, the people I sell to know much more about the solutions available in my industry. Never had one. This is across all different industries, product, service, technology. So given that, I find that salespeople, they said that, and I said, so what happens when you see a business card that says CEO, president, CFO? All of a sudden they become timid. They say, oh, well, those people, they know what they want, and they don't shape buyer decision criteria, meaning they're not helping their clientele make an informed buying decision, which in my opinion, salespeople have both an obligation and an opportunity. The obligation is you're in sales, you're trying to help people accomplish whatever it is they're trying to accomplish. So knowing that they don't know what questions to ask, like in the story I shared a moment ago, help them make an informed decision. The opportunity is by doing so, you differentiate yourself, you provide meaningful value, you demonstrate that you care, and that leads people to want to buy from you instead of the competition.
So, I mean, business acumen, knowing the market space, understanding those differences are critical. And a lot of people today, I think, are overemphasizing, how much buyers know just by searching on Google, because it's very cursory.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the websites look the same, all the ebooks sound the same. And they really do want to understand the difference. Because that insulation, I'm sure you wanted it to last the lifetime of the house or your existence in the house.
Exactly.
And you wanted to understand, I mean, is there any difference to this stuff? Is some of it just going to cause problems? Or is there really any maintenance with this? What do I get for the extra price I put in? All of those little things that are gotchas afterwards.
I'll give you another one. The company I selected was the only one to tell me that the utility company provided a $500 rebate for doing this.
Wow.
They were the only ones that told me about that.
And I think service has been something that's overlooked, that people don't value it, but I think people do.
It's interesting that in business there's this pendulum, and right now, as you know, it's shifted heavily towards technology. But what happens with that is business becomes very impersonal. And so we rely on, I can just send an email or it's on the website, and you lose that personal interaction, which today becomes something that can differentiate you. I mean, when's the last time someone sent you a handwritten thank you note? Can you even remember?
No, it's been years, honestly.
Years.
Yeah.
So if I sent you a handwritten thank you note, you wouldn't forget that, would you?
Right.
That would stand out. So it would show that I care, I'm interested in the relationship. How long would it take me to write a thank you note? 5 minutes? 3 minutes? And slap a stamp on it and off it goes. And so, when this whole idea of sales differentiation, it's not hard to put into practice. It just requires some thought and some consideration. So one of the aspects that I talk about in the book is the reference stage of the buying process, where someone's considering contracting with you and asks for references. And they always ask for 3, and I don't know why that became the magic number, but they always ask for 3. And I find it's the most misunderstood phase of the process among all of them. See, what salespeople hear when you ask for references is, hey, I'm getting the deal. It's a rubber stamp. I just got to handle this task, because that's how they see it's a task. I got to get them 3 names and numbers by the end of the day, and then I can go update the CRM, tell them I'm getting this piece of business, go tell my manager, got another deal, add it to my quota attainment, and off we go. But if you think about why buyers ask for references, they're trying to validate what a salesperson has presented to them. In other words, salespeople come in and they preach, oh, we're the best. Every last one of them says whatever it is that they're selling is the absolute best. And decision-making carries with it risk. So whoever makes the decision to outsource for the first time or change suppliers, their name is on this decision. So they're asking for references to validate and reduce their risk, and they want to hear from people that have had similar circumstances, maybe changing from a particular supplier or in a similar role to them, so that they can validate what the salesperson has told them.
Yeah.
So you got the salesperson on one side who sees this as a rubber stamp, and a buyer who sees this as a critical validation step. So now that we understand what the buyer is trying to accomplish, we have this wonderful opportunity to provide meaningful value, to differentiate ourselves, so that when someone says, hey, can you send me 3 references, instead of just saying, yep, I'll get those to you end of the day, ask 2 questions back. What is it you're hoping to learn through these conversations, and who's going to be making the call? And that allows me to align the right resources, the right references for what it is you're trying to accomplish. And then you prepare both sides of the equation. What I mean by that is this reference stage isn't defined. So the people that they're going to be calling and having this conversation, they don't know what to say. And the people that are performing the reference, they don't know what to ask of these people. So what you do is you prepare both sides so it becomes an outstanding experience. So for the person that's serving as a reference, if you say to them, first of all, make sure you have clearance to use them for this purpose. You say, hey, Lee Sauls is going to be giving you a call. He wants to talk with you about A, B, and C, which are things that we did for your account as well. And by the way, I would be the account manager for them just like I am for you. So please mention to them the different things that I provide for your account, such as D, E, and F. So now they're expecting a call. They've been prepped on what to talk about, including me and the value that I personally bring. Then we go to the other side, and instead of just giving them name and phone number or name, phone, or phone number, email address, we also give them a little paragraph. You're going to be calling John Jones. Like you, he's also a VP of manufacturing for ABC, and he can really speak to 3 points that you mentioned to me: blah, blah, and blah. And by the way, he can also share with you his experiences with me as his account manager. Now I've helped both sides go through this exercise and help my prospect have an outstanding experience. I've shown that I care, and it's different than what my competition might be doing, who just said, yeah, here's a couple of phone numbers and some people, go have at it.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by the whole differentiating how you sell.
And what was your motivation for writing the book? Were you just frustrated with the direction of the sales profession, or?
First of all, I love to write. This is actually my 5th book.
Oh, okay.
And like I mentioned before, this is a passion of mine. And it's funny, that's carried on to my kids, because now they ask those types of questions when they're looking at various products or services and trying to look for what the differentiated aspect is. And they'll come back to me and they'll say, I don't get it. Why would somebody ever buy this? It's really neat. But this has always been, like I said, helping my own salespeople when I manage sales forces in a variety of industries, helping them differentiate themselves so that from a corporate perspective, they could achieve the objective that we had set forth.
Yeah. And, when you're writing a book like this, what are the key things that you think people are going to get out of it?
Well, one is recognition that they have opportunities to differentiate themselves on both sides of the equation around what you sell and how you sell.
Yeah.
And the book provides a series of workshops. It's probably got 30 stories in it, and they're all stories that are very relatable. One of my editors is my mother. She's retired. She was an educational evaluator in the New York City school system. And I made sure she could understand every single story, that you didn't need to have an MBA, you didn't need to be selling for 40 years to understand the book and understand what's been shared as ways to help differentiate yourself. But it's not just for the new salesperson. I wrote this so that even if you're the veteran salesperson, you've been selling for 25 years, and you say, boy, my industry's become commoditized. I got to do something different if I'm going to keep winning business at the prices I want. So the book is really for anyone that's in sales, a business owner, sales manager, that is looking for creative ways to win accounts.
And that's, I think, the key word. That was the word I was looking for, was that, when you talk to people about how to differentiate yourself, I think they get into a grind or a groove, and to say, well, how do I do that? And it's like, you have to be creative, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll share you 3 data points that really help drive the book. Forrester did a study, and this comes back to something you mentioned a moment ago, and it said 3/4 of buyers conducted more than half their research online before they talked with a salesperson. The corporate executive board,
I love this, yeah.
right, and this number has grown. They've said 6.8 people are involved in today's B2B buying decision. And corporate vision says that 3/4 of buyers choose the sales rep who was first to add value and insight. Now, there's nothing we could do about the amount of research someone does before they speak with us. There's nothing we could do about the number of people that are going to be involved in making the decision. But there's so much that we can do to be in that 74% where the sales rep who was first to add value and insight won the deal. Yeah. And that way is through sales differentiation.
But don't you think we're in this paradox today? And you kind of described it, with the architecture of the sales process. There is a structure to it, and there's an ideal structure to it. But then that kind of squashes creativity in a way, doesn't it?
It's interesting. I had a salesperson many years ago work for me, name my company, which is Sales Architects. And she said, the reason I see what you do as architecture, and the metaphor wasn't exactly right, but I understood her point. She said, you help to put a framework in place to help me to be successful, but you don't tell me what color the drapes need to be.
Yeah.
So in other words, when I talk about putting this framework in place, you still need to leave plenty of opportunity for creativity and color for your salespeople to provide, or you wind up having sales robots. So you need to have this framework and still provide plenty of opportunity for salespeople to inject their personality, their style into it.
Now, do you have a difficulty with that with sales managers? Because I think they want their reps to differentiate themselves and their product, but they also want their cadence to be a certain way, the CRM to look a certain way, the forecast to look a certain way, to use the identical vocabulary so they all know what they're talking about. Do you see it as a paradox, or?
I had a conversation this morning with a sales management executive, and he had just taken the reins in a new company. And the salespeople thus far have been allowed to just do whatever they wanted to do, however they wanted to do it. And he's challenged with making that adjustment because he recognizes some of what they're doing isn't necessarily the right thing, and he's got people that aren't performing at the levels that he expects. And the question I asked him was this: can you name one company that allows their salespeople to do whatever they want to do, however they want to do it, that would be described as successful? If you could name one company that is successful, allowing their salespeople to sell in whatever way they want, I'll shut up.
Yeah. No, I certainly
can't name one.
Yeah. I agree with you there. And I think today, the pendulum swung the other way a little too far, with all the automation tools and the lack of differentiation. Everyone's using the same automation tools, or they all do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And you get the silly little subject lines. You get stuck in the cadence. They're all calling you from local numbers, and they're all asking for 15 minutes of your time. They're no value.
Right. So that brings up another concept that's in the book around making that first call.
Yeah.
And I call it developing a sales crime theory. So imagine it's 2 a.m. and there's a pounding on your front door. It's the police. They want to have a conversation with you about a crime that's just been committed. Now, they don't randomly pick your home and you for this conversation. They've looked at a trail of evidence, put together a crime theory, and that's led them to you for a conversation right now.
Yeah.
Can you see where I'm going?
I use that. I love that analogy because when you think about prospecting, what do most salespeople do? They just walk the neighborhood. They don't go to like, oh, a woman died. Let's talk to the husband. Let's not talk to the gardener at the golf course, right?
Exactly. So the idea is that you figure out what evidence would lead someone to say, I need to talk with you right now. So in other words, it's not the salesperson saying, this is why I should talk with them, but why should they want to talk with me right now? So you seek evidence, and it could be a news release. It could be, based on what you're selling, it could be, that they got sued, or maybe one of their competitors is doing something that they're not, and you could help them. Maybe you read in their annual report that they have a new initiative that you could help satisfy. So you look for that evidence and you put together your sales crime theory, reach out to the right person in the organization with whom that's going to resonate most, and now you're having a very different conversation than what you described as the making a random call and hoping that they'll take a meeting with you.
Yeah, because sales is a lot of detective work. It's a lot of cerebral work.
And I find that salespeople like that sales crime theory because it takes prospecting from this boring rote experience to, okay, now this is fun, right? I'm going to put my little detective hat on and I'm going to go solve this.
Right. You go from the victim outwards. You don't go randomly through the town. It would take forever to find the right person.
And again, that brings us back to differentiating yourself right in that very first meeting.
Yeah. And if you think about the great sales reps that you've known through your life, they do look a lot more like Columbo than they do, somebody just randomly running around as fast as they can.
Yep.
Hey, so tell us more about the book, when it's going to be available, and how to get it.
Well, you can go on Amazon now. It's available in hardcover, Kindle, and audiobook.
Excellent.
It actually ships on September the 18th. But one of the things that I'm doing now we call it a pre-launch, is that anybody that purchases the book now, I'm providing a complimentary 30-minute sales differentiation consultation. It is not a sales call. It's 30 minutes dedicated to you where I help you brainstorm on sales differentiation strategy. So if you buy the book before it's shipping on September 18th, email your receipt to consult@salesarchitects, and there's an S on that, .com, and you'll get an email back with a link to my calendar to schedule that consultation.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed talking to Lee. And differentiation is critical, and it's counterintuitive. It means that we all want to kind of conform and fit in, but we also have to be different to get reactions, to get the actions that we want taken. So one way of being different is doing video email. Video, teaming up with me with a whole bunch of stuff about video in the next 90 day on their make sure you're checking out their company page, Co-Video, on LinkedIn. Also, follow my company pages for the podcast, The Brutal Truth, Sales Questions, B2B Revenue. Why? Because I put out funny videos every day. I put out announcements about the podcast. It's a great way to keep track of what's going on here. So make sure you're checking out Co-Video. Try it. See if you like it. It's a little uncomfortable at first, but I just got used to it. Every day when I go out to work out, I just bring, obviously I'm having my smartphone anyway. I got my little selfie stick, and I get like 4 or 5 great sales ideas, things that I disagree with other people on, things that people are overlooking, little tips and tricks. And it's just a way of connecting with people. So I'll stop and just do a little recording. And it's become reasonably popular on LinkedIn. If you come to my profile, you can see them, follow me there, or connect up with me. Love to be in your network. And it's just a great way to engage with people. They see who you are. They get a sense of who you are. Yeah, there's some judgment. Who cares? But what you do is you're different. And that's what it's all about. So also what's different is being able to understand what people talk about, what they care about, and how I use nudge.ai to do that. So I've got a free course on how I use it. It's $250, but you can use the coupon NUDGE to get into it for free. Also, if you want a free month of both Nudge and Pipedrive, it's the Brutal Truth, Brutal Truth is the coupon code. You get 1 free month. Pipedrive's got this new automation capability to basically, when you move deals from one stage to another, automatic action will happen, like sending an email, letting someone else on the team know, so you don't have to do it. It saves a lot of steps. They have a lot of integration with Zapier, which I use, so that my whole workflow is now automated. It's really powerful. To give you an update on the courses, I'm stepping up the courses, and I know you get a lot of options out there, but this isn't taught by somebody who's never sold. I sold for 25 years and then started my own company. I still sell every day. I love it. And working for myself, it's, you get the immediate reaction because you either get paid or you don't get paid. So you know what works and what doesn't. You don't get that cushy base salary anymore. So you either produce or you don't. So it kind of cements what works today. So it's somebody who works for their mommy or some burnt out old guy. I love sales. I mean, I'm literally doing it 18 hours a day. I didn't take a day off this whole summer. I'm crazy. That's not going to happen next summer. but boy, am I paying for it. Now everybody's back to work. But what I'm adding to the courses is the ability to have some one-on-ones. It's going to be judicious, meaning I want you like unique topics that I think everybody else in the class will benefit from. Currently, what you get with the class is a 1-year access to it. It's self-pay. You take the videos, the exercises at whatever pace you feel comfortable with. You submit questions anytime you want via email. I respond via the course. I either point you in the right direction or I answer your question in a video that's then put into the course so that you can then benefit from the course and what other people are getting. So, and then there's office hours, which is a group meetup every other Friday. And there it's interactive. People ask questions, anything that they want based around the topic of the course. And if there's time at the end, we'll open it up for more rec stuff. So it's, that 20 hours a year of that. You get access to it a year. After the year, I'll probably get a renew option that'd be much less expensive. The idea is to take you from where you are to become a monster at getting meetings and starting conversations, and the other course about closing the complex sale, which is critical now because we got less than 4 months left in the year, and it's going to be the difference between you crushing your number and just getting by. And wouldn't it be nice to just crush your number and go into next year with a full pipeline, knowing what you're doing? I know, I use an analogy. It's like we all know how to play chess, like we all know how to sell, but we're not grandmasters. How do you become a grandmaster? Well, I'm not a grandmaster, but I hired a chess coach recently, and it's super expensive. But what he does is he goes, well, think out loud with me, show me your work. And he'd say, like, why are you moving here? What's your strategy? And what he's doing is showing me how the grandmasters think. So I'm starting to think like them. And it's a whole nother level. And, I don't make any money playing chess. It's a passion of mine because it so relates to the complex sale. Thinking multiple steps in advance, strategy, not just reacting. Taking the emotion out of it, understanding what the other person's doing, getting into their head, understanding that there's many different players, and, testing each possible move. So that's what I love about the course. I'm 100% committed to the students, and the people who are getting the most out of it are the people who are really pushing me and pushing themselves, not just passively taking in information, because learning how to pass is one thing. Becoming great at it is a whole other thing. And you need somebody to help you with that. Show their work, get some feedback, exchange ideas, see how other people are playing it. Okay, enough about that. So check that all out at b2brevenue.com. You get my free book there on how companies make purchase selections. And it ain't by sending them a quote, I'll tell you that. Thanks for listening.